COVID has affected my life pretty much in the same ways it's affected everyone in the world, which is it's brought it to a complete standstill. And I suppose everything that we've known in terms of how to work, how to function, how our day-to-day lives operate has totally changed. So and made us rethink lots of stuff. And I think it's brought up lots of anxieties in lots of different ways, as it has for everyone, from the most important things of health to, the economy, to work, to all of those kind of things. And at the same time, even through the tragedy, and great tragedies, and never to play lightly on that, as always, even in the darkest times, there are incredible learnings. So also some new beginnings of sort of new ways of thinking as well. I hope the creative community acts differently when all this is over, to be honest. I don't think we're going to have any choice, because I don't think it will. I think the strains of this are so deep that it's not like we're just going to bounce back straight away, and nor should we, because the world isn't going to be the same. And if ultimately we are here to reflect the world in some way, to understand it, to be able to play it back, then it would be really remiss of us. It would be naive of us to suddenly go back to, the way that things were. And I think the most important thing that this period has taught us is to listen. And we're going to have to continue listening, because the beat is changing sort of daily, weekly, monthly. And I think the reverberations of that are going to be very long. I don't think that's going to be like, 6 months later, we're all back on holiday, everything's great, we're all in pubs. I hope that's the case, by the way. I hope we're all out. But I think this is going to have a much more profound effect on all of us. And I hope creatively it's calmed us down, made us less, I don't want to say arrogant necessarily, but made us think that we know all the answers. I think hopefully this has been a time of reflection and listening. God, that's a good question. I don't think this is a crisis to overcome. I think that's the terminology, and this isn't just the question that you've asked. This is the question in the media about, how do we get over this? I don't think it's about overcoming this thing. It's about living with it and adapting with it as it changes, as the numbers go down. Fingers crossed there's not a second spike, etc., etc. I think it has taught us, this is globally, but particularly the creative community, I think it's taught us flexibility, that we had a way of working that has been great in a lot of ways, but we've always talked about being agile and nimble, and so a lot of the times those words can just be used and not actually felt. But we've had to work that way because we've genuinely not known what's going to happen the next day, and what the mood of the nation's going to be, what the mood of the globe's going to be, what the new bit of news is going to be. So I think there's been a wonderful shift in how we ideate, how we create, the tools in which we use, for everything from film production, how do we create films in this time when we can't be on sets and we can't shoot actors and we can't cast, etc., etc. So I think it's, in a really positive way, made us, as always, creativity always needs attention, always needs a rub. I think in a really positive way, it's opened us up to different ways of working, and also different combinations of how to work to get to the best result. I don't think remote working is the worst thing in the world, but I also don't think it's the best thing in the world. So I think on the positive side, actually, I think in the new normal, whatever the hell that will be, I think there will be times when this is actually sufficient, and it will save time instead of loads of people having to get together, a meeting culture, all the rest of it. Hopefully that's going to change that quite cataclysmically, because this has shown, Jesus Christ, Zoom, Skype, Teams, all the rest of it, whichever one you use, has shown that you can be incredibly effective and you can be incredibly connected, albeit remotely. That said, I think the magic dust that comes from when you're together in those empty spaces, when you're riffing, when you're quiet, the things that you can't plan for, I think that's the thing that we are missing creatively. I think missing creatively in all agencies and amongst teams. And as lockdown starts to relax, I think it's not necessarily about getting back into the agency, it's going to be about getting back together. And just being able to have that banter. I miss when you're reviewing work, I miss being able to just sort of sit and ponder and think and go, what about that? And then someone takes a beat and what about that? Versus much more transactional thing on Zoom where you're on a time, you've got a camera on you, you've got to respond. I don't know, there's a different energy to it. And it doesn't mean that great creativity can't come from that. It just can't be the only way. I think there have been some incredible initiatives that come out of a lot of agencies, that have come out of a lot of organisations. I actually like the stuff that's just going on quite organically on social and on certain kind of networks like the Dots that have. There has been obviously much more of a sense of community and caring generally in the world, but I've been incredibly heartened by how strong that is within the creative community of people trying to find opportunities, particularly for young people who are coming in to give them crits, to look at their works. This is a generation coming through. I think that's going to be one of our biggest obligations is how do we make sure we don't let them down? It's been really tough. It's only 3.5 months so far. It's going to be a tough next few years because of a recession, and we can't have a generation or a few years of these kids coming out and not having the same opportunities. So I've loved how those kids coming out have been asking for help, but also how people, individuals, and as I said, organisations have been responding, going, right, okay, we're going to put in weekly crits, we're going to invite you in for this kind of tutorial, etc., etc. And it's been fantastic, actually. So I'm going to sound a bit cheesy, but I love my wife and kids a lot, which is helpful in lockdown. And so my two children are 10 and 8, and they are a constant source of inspiration. I know that sounds a bit hallmarky, but I sort of don't care. They are awesome, and seeing them go slightly mad in the house, have school, play, chuck a ball about, make up new games because they're just so bored of all the games that they've got, is a constant source of love and a constant source of inspiration for me. Actually, funnily enough, I think that the sedentary sense of how we've all been, that we've been quite still, has meant that I've really gone into real wormholes of different things, whether it be on the computer, whether it's revisiting old books, picture books, photography, reading, magazines, watching, theatre that's been broadcast for people to consume, because obviously all the theatres are shut down. Obviously the obvious things with Netflix and stuff. Fantastic show I'm watching at the minute, Feel Good, amazing, got to watch it. It's actually on Channel 4. It's been all of that really. It's sort of like there's this massive cornucopia of stuff that you can dip into. So everything and anything, to be honest, which is interesting, all in my house. So I haven't gone anywhere for it, it's all in my house. I hope out of all of this, what we remember and realise and get better at is sort of knowing our place in the world and what we're here to do, and hopefully do well. And I suppose how hopefully after all of this we remember the need to be relevant, and the need to be relevant comes from listening. And I think, again, out of such a tragic time, if there's something really great to come out of it, is if we can just take a breath, listen a little bit more, and create stuff that is actually for people to consume, to enjoy, to be entertained, to be educated or whatever, then we hopefully will have learned something quite profound and quite important.